In this class we want to talk about interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are vital skills that all individuals must utilize effectively. We use these for dealing with family, friends, and importantly we use them to get us employment and to enable us to function effectively within the workforce, enable us to perform our tasks efficiently, effectively, and in a friendly manner with our colleagues at work. Having good interpersonal skills allows individuals to effectively interact with other people. For example, individuals are interacting with individuals, I should say, are interacting with groups of people or with families, friends, colleagues, and other professionals. So we use interpersonal skills with just about everyone we meet. And it's important to have a good set of interpersonal skills. In other words, a good way of conducting ourselves, a friendly manner, and a manner which enables us to communicate clearly and effectively whatever message we're trying to impart. Interpersonal skills varies from communication skills to social skills. And it's vital for mainly in jobs where we're in close contact with colleagues, working within organizations and working under conditions perhaps of stress, or working under conditions which are onerous. They're taxing conditions. So good interpersonal skills can help to alleviate some of the stress and the problems. Dealing with others efficiently and effectively and in a pleasant manner can help to alleviate some of the problems. Interpersonal skills are developed subconsciously throughout life and are perhaps mostly based on experiences in the past. When we have an experience of miscommunications, poor communications, we learn from it and we adjust our behavior in the future. If we know that certain behaviors annoy people, we reduce those behaviors. In other words, we condition ourselves to function efficiently and effectively and in a nice manner with our colleagues, our friends, our family, and so on. Now, the importance of interpersonal skills. Well, interpersonal skills, if used effectively, can help in a wide variety of ways. They can manage stress, for example. When working in conditions of stress, perhaps working within a company in conditions of stress, having good interpersonal skills can help to reduce the problem and alleviate the stress. It can also help to reduce conflict. When there is misunderstanding and when situations of conflict arise, having good interpersonal skills means that the situation may be diffused. The person with the good interpersonal skills can mediate and explain and change around the interpretation of what was said or meant and get some sort of amicable outcome. It can resolve the conflict. It certainly helps in communications with others. Interpersonal skills, as the name would suggest, is interpersonal. It helps communications. But there's a variety of approaches to interpersonal skills, as we'll see. It may be verbal. We may speak in a certain way, but we may also use gestures, facial gestures or hand gestures, to help to explain what we're trying to say and explain the message. So interpersonal skills helps with communications, and just generally speaking it helps to it leads to understanding between peers, between colleagues. They're able to understand each other better because they have better interpersonal skills. They're able to link to each other and understand each other more effectively. Now, the importance of interpersonal skills. Well, in a professional context, interpersonal skills helps us get a job. Good interpersonal skills helps us to get employment in the first place. We become desirable workers. The employers want us because we have a good interpersonal skills set. But they also enable us to communicate effectively with our colleagues. And this means that we have a good working relationship with people in the office or on the shop floor. And our promotion prospects will be enhanced by having good interpersonal skills. In a personal context, interpersonal skills helps us to manage relationships and social interactions. So it's good that we're able to deal with people at all levels and virtually in all situations, and we're able to deal with them because they can link to our interpersonal skills. They understand us. We make ourselves clear, understandable, we're friendly, we communicate effectively. So we're able to develop good relationships. Now, interpersonal skills, well, interpersonal skills involve a wide variety of skills. For example, we have good communication skills. We're able to talk and communicate and write, send emails. But these are effective. They're able to communicate effectively what we're trying to say, and they do it in a way which is acceptable to the receiver. And we're able to listen to others. We have the capacity to listen and understand. We don't just jump in and interrupt. We can listen and understand what others are trying to say. But at the same time, we can be assertive. Not aggressively assertive, but we're assertive about the message we're putting across. We get our message understood. And we have social skills. We understand differences in culture. We understand differences in background. And we can accommodate those by adjusting the message and adjusting the way the message is presented according to different cultures or different ways that people want to receive the message. We have certainly got good verbal skills. We can express the message in several ways. We can make it very easily understood. At the same time, we can be professional and express the same content using a different vocabulary, one which is more professional and meets a different target audience. We're able to reduce conflict, as I said earlier, because we can accommodate differences and we can reconcile differences. We have the skills to take different points of view, talk them over, get an understanding and turn them back to people so that they can adjust their requirements and resolve the conflict. We can problem solve, and that's important. Being able to problem solve is vital in today's world. The problems don't come pre-solved. Problems come as problems, and we need good interpersonal skills to take the problem, discuss it with our colleagues and our friends and our line managers and whoever's affected, and then try to resolve the problem. And that is a good interpersonal skill. Decision making. We're able to make decisions because we have the capacity to explain what we want and ensure that the audience, the people we're speaking to, the receiver of the message, understands us, and we're able to make decisions that are feasible because we know who we're talking to. We know what can be done. We're not asking the impossible. And the people we are speaking to understand what is required because we have the capacity, the interpersonal skills, to make it clear to them what is required. We've got good negotiating skills. When problems do arise, we can negotiate. When there is a difference in what the parties want or what they consider to be right or wrong, we can negotiate. We can try to find middle ground. We can try to accommodate the differences, resolve the differences, and get the business running again. We've got also good presentation skills. If need be, we can present a case, and we are pleasant and presentable because we got interpersonal skills. So we can empathize with what the audience want in terms of presentation, and we can deliver the message to them in a way that's pleasant and acceptable. So we've got good presentation skills. And we can use information and communications technology. We can use this effectively and at ease. So we see it as an extension of our skills. It's not just our capacity to speak and to use gestures with our hands or facial gestures. We're able to use modern technology to communicate, but communicate in a way which is, again, acceptable to the receiver. Now, the importance of verbal and non-verbal communications. Let's start with the communication skills. Well, communication skills, this is the exchange of information between individuals or groups of people. It's a vital skill which is used almost all the time in all activities. So having good communication skills is critically important, particularly in business, where there must be a channel of communications, a way of communicating, in other words. It could be face-to-face or over the telephone or by email or whatever it is. There must be a channel of communications, and the communication skills for the sender must be such that the receiver of the message can understand clearly what is required, can understand clearly the message. Effective communications between individuals articulates respect for each other's opinion and effective negotiation and persuasion. So good communications shows respect for the receiver. It understands that the receiver may have different opinions, but it's communicating what is desired, what's required or desired on the part of the sender. And in the event of a mismatch, the two sides not agreeing, the sender has got negotiating skills which will enable him or her to resolve the issue, to bring their interpersonal skills into play more fully and resolve the issue. Communication is the basic building blocks of your development. So you as an individual who is going through a business course will be developing all sorts of interpersonal skills, and communications is essential, because without communications what you've learned or what you can achieve is locked within you. It's only when you communicate them do others understand the significance of your learning, your capability, what you're able to bring to bear in terms of the business or a business. So communications allows individuals to effectively express their opinions to people whilst using appropriate gestures and language, using hand skills, using hand gestures or facial gestures, and using appropriate language. So the communications is clear. Now there are two types of communications. There's verbal and non-verbal communications. So let's look at verbal communications to start. The concept of verbal communications, or communication, relies on the effective use of sound and language to express a message and ideas. So verbal is using sound. It's using sound, particular sounds, which we call a language, to express a message or an idea. Now clearly how we use those sounds is important. If we use the sounds aggressively or loud and aggressively, then the message may not be received in a friendly format. It may be seen as an aggressive message. If we use it quietly and calmly, it may be too quiet. It's not received because it's too quiet. It must be related to the environment. Verbal communications. Well, the concept of verbal communication relies on the effective use of sound and language to express a message or ideas. So here we're using sound. Now, a few issues arise immediately in the use of sound. One, it must be audible. It must be heard. So there is a role for the environment here. If it's a noisy environment, lots of noisy machinery or lots of traffic, then the sounds may have to be louder to be understood. The language may have to be louder. But it depends on the context. If it's a quiet environment and a person is using very loud language, then they may be seen as aggressive. So the context in which the message is delivered must be taken into account. But verbal communications is dealing with sound. It's dealing with language. It is very important for some areas like teaching and learning, for example, where communications is extremely important. The message is very important, and it's important that the recipient understands the message clearly. Verbal communications works alongside non-verbal communications in order to for the communication to be effective. By and large, when we communicate with others, we don't stand rigidly and speak in a very regimented manner. We tend to use our hands and make gestures and pull faces and use facial expressions, and so communications is a rich tapestry of gestures and sounds, or if you like, language. So communications, it entails body language as well. Verbal communications can consist of public speaking, delivering a message to a group, and interpersonal communications, exchange of information which involves talking and active listening. Essentially what we're trying to say here is it can be one-to-many, or it could be one-to-one. It can be interpersonal in the sense of it can be one person dealing with another person, or it can be one person dealing with the whole group. And body language is important when dealing with a group as well. If making a presentation, the person is walking around far too much or using a lot of wild gestures with his or her arms, it can be seen as blocking the message. There's too much of a distraction. So body language is important when dealing with many, but body language is also important when dealing with one person. When making a communications with one person, using limited use of hands and gestures and facial expressions is probably the most effective way to go. Verbal communications, well, the purpose of verbal communications is to pass on information to other individuals. It may be a simple word or an in-depth conversation, but verbal communications, the idea is to make communications, to understand a message, to pass a message from one to another. Appropriate language and emotion is vital to pass on a message, which could be to inform, inquire, discuss or argue. But appropriate language must be used. It depends on who we're speaking to. If we're speaking to someone who's got very limited knowledge of the processes within a business, then using very professional language may be seen as intimidating. So it's important just to tailor the message to the person who is receiving it. Use appropriate language for the recipient of the message. A main barrier to effective communication is misunderstanding, and this can be due to differences of opinion, the use of words, or language barriers. Sometimes people don't have the same mother tongue, so both may be speaking in a foreign language. So there's a recipe there for misunderstanding. The people may have different opinions about certain issues and may misunderstand each other because they're coming at it from a different perspective. The language barriers may be determined by the level of education, social status, lifestyle, cultural background and geographic location. So there are all sorts of barriers to messages getting across. Now, non-verbal communications. Well, non-verbal communications occurs when we interact with others through wordless signals. We use our hands. We point. We use various gestures, facial gestures or hand gestures, to augment the message, to add to the message, perhaps add to the importance of the message. If you want to become an effective communicator, you must be able to understand non-verbal communication, which ranges from body gestures to eye contact. So the full communications is made up from the verbal component and the non-verbal component. So non-verbal communication is important as it allows us to understand individual reactions. When we pass on a message, we can judge how the message has been received. If the person looks shocked, or if the person was happy, they smiled, or they waved their arms around. So we can judge the effectiveness of the message according to non-verbal signals. Now, the types of non-verbal communication, well, we have facial gestures, allows us to try to pick up on emotions without speaking. Facial expressions are universal and exist throughout all cultures. So we look at how people react to situations, if they're upset or if they're happy or whatever. So that's one form of non-verbal communications. Body language, the way you communicate with your body, provides a considerable amount of information to the people around you. It takes place through posture, the way you stand, and the hand movements, the way you walk and stand. So if you use your arms a lot when you speak, you may be seen as a very animated person, a very self-confident person. But the hand gestures should be adding to the message. They should be supplementing the message. Hand-eye contact. Without knowing, we express ourselves through our hand-eye movements. This is a powerful communications mechanism and allows for better communications between individuals. This includes pointing, hand movement, I should say, expressing interest and attraction through eye contact. Looking a person straight in the eye, or trying to focus in on an issue. It is a part of the communications medium. Now, types of non-verbal communication. Well, touch. We may receive a wealth of information through touch. It could include hugs or types of handshake, a tap on the shoulder, physical aggression, such as fighting. So, in some cultures, it's not acceptable at all. In others, it may be seen as a way of endorsing the message or a way of reinforcing the message. Personal space. Maintaining an appropriate physical distance between individuals is essential. It's important that you allow individuals to feel comfortable within their space. Physical space can articulate affection, intimacy, aggression, and power. So we tend to stand at a comfortable distance from each other. If one party in the communications moves closer, it's violating the personal space of the other one, who may then move backwards to re-establish the space. But it's uncomfortable if people stand too close together or too far apart. So there is personal space. There's no rule as to how far that is apart. Some people say it should be 2 elbow lengths apart, but there's no real rule to this. Some cultures may stand closer than others. But what's important is that personal space is respected. The tone of voice. Your tone of voice suggests the context in which you are speaking. It could represent anger or affection or fear or confidence. So the tone of voice is very important. It's not just the volume. We're dealing here with sounds, and if the sound is smooth and pleasant, it may be more acceptable. If it's rough and loud, it sounds aggressive. Effective communications. Well, communications can be greatly enhanced if you show respect for the other's opinions. That's important. Ensure that you consider your message before you speak. Think about how the message will be received. It's important that the message is well thought out, and anticipate complications, anticipate misunderstandings, anticipate issues that will have to be resolved after the message has been delivered. And if at all possible, try to reduce these problems before the message is sent in the first place. Speak clearly and choose your words. Make sure that the words are appropriate. Make sure that the message is clear, that it's efficient. It's not just a message for a message's sake. It's not just keeping people listening to a set of words which don't mean a lot. Make sure that the words mean something, and make sure that the appropriate language is selected. Appropriate words are selected. Look at the audience and try to use the language of the audience, a language that's understood, and speak clearly. Aim to use appropriate non-verbal communication whilst expressing your language. Appropriate. Don't overdo hand movements. Don't jump up and down and wave your arms around. It's distracting. It's confusing. And make sure they're appropriate. If the message is sad, then don't look like you're excited. Make sure that the non-verbal communication goes with the verbal communication. They are matched. Finally, most importantly, listen to others before you speak. Give other people a chance to express themselves. This is the power of listening. Make sure you have the capacity to listen to others, understand their perspective, and then communicate. because there is a basis for the communications, and bring the verbal and non-verbal communication skills into play at that stage. That's all I want to say about this important topic. So I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.